I am delighted to welcome everyone for this important town hall meeting that we're having here today on behalf of the City of Fayetteville and the Small Business Administrators. Um, we are thrilled for this opportunity to discuss this vital, important information that we plan on providing you regarding small business and the support in the local community. I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Fayetteville Technical Community College for the gracious allowing us to host this event because of the unpouring support and need that you guys have showed in this quick turnaround. With this, we want to continue to support Dr. Souls and his staff for turning things around so quickly. And because of that, their support for education and the economic impact to this community cannot be understated. Today we gather to share insights, address challenges, and explore opportunities that will help the small businesses thrive in the local area. We are honored to have representatives from SBA who will provide information along with their business resource partners to answer any questions that you guys may have. I thank you for being here and your dedication to make Fayetteville a vibrant place for small businesses to grow and succeed in this area. How's everybody doing? I want to talk a little bit about the agenda that we have today. We're going to start here promptly. Well, we've already started, 1 o'clock. We also will have a fireside chat where we'll bring the SBA Regional 4 Administrator and the Honorary Mayor Mitch Colvin up here to have a fireside chat, hosted also by Dr. Tamir Colvin. After that, we will have a panel discussion where some of our local business resource partners will actually answer any of your questions. And after that, we encourage everyone to please go to any of the resource tables to get assistance. I do want to talk about some of the programs that the city itself offers. Some of the small business development programs that we offer small business loan programs and small business grant programs. Those programs are from grants to loans. Okay. The loan program is gap financing, where we fill in the gap to help you purchase your property, so it is property oriented. Okay. The commercial exterior grant program, it is a matching $25,000 grant that we can use to help the exterior of your building, and we ask for you just to retain jobs. We have the city's website uploaded so you can scan the QR code to get right to our site to find any of those resources. As the SBA District Director of North Carolina, Mike Oriola leads an office that drives economic development by helping entrepreneurs to start and grow their business. He directs and implementation of SBA programs related to financing, business advising, and government contracts. He's in charge of government contracts. I want to reiterate that. Mike has been with the SBA since 1998. In 2004, he opened an SBA satellite in Asheville. He moved to Charlotte to become the Deputy District Director of the same state in 2014. He is named the District Director in May of 2021, overseeing the Charlotte District Office and the satellite office in Asheville, Raleigh, and Wilmington. Please welcome Mike Oriola.
Thank you so much, Derek, for your partnership. Thanks also to Fayetteville Tech for hosting us today. And I do want to point out some of my teammates with me today. First of all, Deputy District Director Argnaz Meradian, who was instrumental in putting together today's event. We've also got Scott Wolford coming down from our Raleigh office. Scott. And our very newest team member serving southeastern North Carolina. She actually lives in Hope Mills, right, Heather? Yeah, okay. Heather, stand up and be recognized. Heather is going to be our Southeastern North Carolina representative, and she came to us from the North Carolina Military Business Center. But I do have some wonderful news to share with everybody. Yesterday, President Biden announced that the country reached 18 million new business filings under the Biden-Harris administration, and that certainly deserves a round of applause. And here in the state of North Carolina, we're seeing similar trends in the numbers of new businesses that are being filed. In 2021, we reached about 180,000 new business filings. And in subsequent years, we came very, very close to that record, but we've been holding steady at about 160, 170,000 new business filings for the state of North Carolina. And similarly, SBA loans have been very, very strong during the same period. We actually exceeded $1 billion in SBA loans in FY 2021, and we've been ranging about 800 to 900 million in SBA loans for succeeding years. All of this is to say that in our country, in the state of North Carolina, Cumberland County, City of Fayetteville, entrepreneurship is extremely strong, and that's what brings us to today's event. This is an opportunity for everybody to hear about all the fabulous resources and programs that the SBA and all of our resource partners have to offer as well. And so we're real excited to be able to share those with you today. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I mentioned, Scott is out of Raleigh. Heather is out of southeastern North Carolina. We do have the district office in Charlotte. SBA has 4 core programs. We deliver capital, we help with contracting, we've got a host of counseling and training resources, and we help with disaster assistance. And I was just talking to LaToya in the audience. Raise your hand, LaToya. Because I overheard a conversation, and that led me to describe how exactly SBA loans work. And one of our primary programs has to do with guaranteeing loans that you all would apply through participating lenders, like banks, credit unions, folks like Carolina Small Business Development Fund, and other CDFIs represented today. And as the government guarantor of your business loan, it's a very strong inducement for folks to make loans that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do. Business startups are a key part of that. Although your local lender generally is not going to be inclined to lend to startup businesses, don't be surprised if they say, we need you to be in business for 2 or 3 years. How do you make that happen? With us, with our government guarantee. And if you're not having much success with your local bank, go to another lender or seek out one of the CDFIs like Carolina Small Business Development Fund. Magali, raise your hand so that you can be recognized. And she's going to be on a panel to talk a little bit more about that. But that's what we do in the area of capital. We can also help with accessing federal contracts. The U.S. government acquires about 800 to 900 billion in goods and services of all kinds every year. And within the Small Business Act, there's actually a target that 23 cents out of every contracting dollar should be going to small businesses. How do we make that happen? Well, through the SBA 8A Business Development Program, we've been able to certify small businesses to get a foothold into that contracting marketplace. But there are other programs as well. There's the historically underutilized Business Zone Program, which is geographically based, and that's distinct from the North Carolina Hub program. There are women's certification programs, and there are veteran certification programs as well. SBA is also involved in counseling and training, so we provide sponsorship and funding to organizations such as the SBTDC. Raise your hand, Joseph James back there. A partnership between the SBA and the University of North Carolina system. We also have the Women's Business Center, represented today by Denise Langdon, and you're going to hear from her in a little bit. There's also SCORE. There are 9 chapters of them throughout the state of North Carolina. And finally, but last but not least, is the Veterans Business Outreach Center, represented by Robin Livingstone in the back. Fayetteville is really blessed because Fayetteville is the only city in the entire state that has all 4 of these programs. That's because the VBOC is based here in Fayetteville. So that's really wonderful to realize. And then finally, SBA has disaster loans that could help folks recover in the aftermath of disaster. Go ahead and fast forward to the next slide. And while I'm introducing the next speaker, I want you all to break out your phones and follow us on LinkedIn. That's where I keep everybody apprised as to all the goings on in the state of North Carolina. We were really fortunate to be with Vice President Kamala Harris yesterday in Charlotte. Check out some of the other things that we got going on. But go ahead, I'll let you snap away. And while you're snapping away, it's my pleasure to introduce the next speaker, somebody that I've known for many years and whom I call a friend. Dr. Tamara Colvin is the director of the Fayetteville-Cumberland Regional Entrepreneur and Business Hub at Fayetteville State University. In this role, Dr. Colvin is responsible for strategic and operational leadership for the hub to provide impactful support to emerging entrepreneurs and existing small businesses. Before this role, she managed the Veterans Business Outreach Center. And under Tamara's leadership, the Veterans Business Outreach Center was named the 2020 National Veterans Business Outreach Center of Excellence by the U.S. Small Business Administration. She received multiple awards at the state and national levels for her leadership. She earned her BA degree from Fayetteville State University, her master's degree in Human Resource Administration from Central Michigan, and her doctorate in Business Administration from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Dr. Colvin?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. We're excited this afternoon to have a fireside chat with our Honorable Mayor Mitch Colvin, as well as our Regional Administrator for Alan Thomas. So I'm going to ask the both of them to please come to the stage. While I'm doing so, I want to introduce who they are. So Mayor Mitch Colvin, the City of Fayetteville. Mayor Colvin is a native of Fayetteville, was elected in November 2017 as the city's longest-serving African-American mayor, and is currently serving his 4th term. Prior to that, he served 2 consecutive terms as City Council member for District 3 from 2013 to 2015, and as Mayor Pro Tem from 2015 to 2017. In 1995, at the age of 21, Mr. Colvin assumed the operational leadership of Colvin Funeral Home Incorporated and learned at an early age that being in business is not easy. Over the last 30 years, he has worked hard to build a strong, community-oriented business, restore goodwill, and address remaining legacy issues. He believes that hard work and commitment in the face of adversity is critical to survival in business and in life. Mayor Colvin's vision is to help Fayetteville prepare for the future by building a viable workforce, investing in infrastructure, and expanding our city's connection to the global economy. He is placing a strong emphasis on economic development, education and training, and the creation of a safe and secure community. Mayor Colvin strongly believes in building a community that works for all segments of our city and our society. Let's welcome Mayor Mitch Colvin. We are blessed to have Alan Thomas, a regional administrator for the Small Business Administration Region 4 Southeast. Mr. Alan Thomas oversees small business administration programs, offices, and operations in the Small Business Administration Southeast region, serving Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Connecticut, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. Whoa, you have a huge territory. Mr. Thomas is a former 3-term mayor, businessman, and entrepreneur, and leader in public and private enterprise. As mayor of Greenville, one of North Carolina's largest cities, Mr. Thomas leads the post-recession recovery, rapid expansion, and robust economic growth, better connecting the city and region. He was recognized by the White House during the Obama and Biden administration for community engagement in law enforcement and public safety. He's a serial entrepreneur. Mr. Thomas co-founded a healthcare technology startup, IQ Max, which grew to serve 160 medical facilities in 36 states, processing 18 million patent records per day. Mr. Thomas was appointed executive director of the North Carolina Global Transport by the governor of North Carolina, Roy Cooper, to revitalize the state global multimodal transportation and logistics hub, spearheading growth and advancement, manufacturing jobs, innovation, and investments. Let's welcome Mr. Alan Thomas. So we know SBA has stated that small businesses create about 66% of all jobs in the last 25 years. And we know that small business stimulates our local economy. It brings jobs, products and services to our community. So that's why this fireside chat is so important, to figure out ways of how we can continue to support the small businesses here in our community. So I have questions for the both of you. What has been your focus for small businesses during your tenure as a mayor and a regional administrator? So we'll start with you, Mayor Colvin.
Well, thank you, lovely Dr. Cole. But thank you to FTCC, and thank you all for spending your afternoon with us. Something that's very passionate to me, as you read my history. You know, I got into this at an early age, and I do it with a passion to make sure that we provide as much information, as resources, and that the process is fair for our small businesses. The one key thing that I think we've been very intentional on, as the director was saying about on the federal level, 23 cents out of every dollar, we have set a goal of 40 cents out of every dollar to do business with the City of Fayetteville. You know, the government is one of the largest purchasers of goods and services. We wanted to make sure we're very intentional about keeping those dollars local and making sure that everybody had a fair shot. And so in addition to the 40% goal that we require from all of our goods and service providers, we want to make sure that we have resources. You know, when the pandemic hit, it was important to us to get money out the door as soon as it came in. In fact, even before the federal and state dollars started to come in, we had general fund reserves that we sent out to the local business owners who didn't qualify for the PPP. The 1 and 2 owner operators and the owner employees that didn't have the big numbers to get it. So we helped a lot of barbers and beauticians and just single entrepreneurs that needed to keep the doors open, get money in their pockets, and to be able to continue to make their obligations. And so in addition to connecting to resources and making the process fair, we do things like this, that we're very intentional educating our community about what it is that we have available and the resources that we have.
Well, first of all, I want to say I'm outnumbered by brilliant Colvins here on this stage. You all know that here in Fayetteville, but it is an honor, Mayor, to be here with you. And Dr. Colvin, thank you so much for having us. And it is good to be in North Carolina. Yeah. You heard that list. They keep me spread out. I've got from Kentucky to the Mississippi River to Florida. People ask where my office is. I said at about 32,000 feet, right? I have a laptop, and it will go. It will travel. And it is a real blessing, and we are headquartered out of Atlanta. But honestly, my feet have been under that desk maybe 4 times because I believe in being out and engaged. As soon as they let me jump on a plane, they said we could take the masks off, I was out there. Because I can't help you if I don't see you. And I can't see you if I don't have your story, right? So I believe in real. I believe in keeping it real, and that's why the mayor and I just have such a good relationship. You know, we've been there. You know, if you're on the mayoral level, working in a city, you see everybody at the grocery store, at church, and at school, don't you? And you can't print money either. You got to collaborate and partner and make good things happen. So I've tried to take a mayoral approach to being the regional administrator here with SBA. We really have. And how do I say that? Is these town halls are our ideas. We decided to do this, and I'm just blessed with the Administrator Isabel Guzman, who is the Cabinet Secretary, and the SBA is part of the President's Cabinet. And those in my role, we are presidential appointees, so we were appointed directly by the President and the Vice President to work in these roles. But understand, we're here to create a sense of urgency. The administrators like myself, you know, Mike and Scott and Eric Nas and our team are phenomenal. They're wonderful professionals that have wonderful professional careers on the federal level, but they bring us in from the private sector. 3.5 years ago, I was looking for a PPP loan, right? I was an executive vice president here in North Carolina with a jet company, and we had 480 employees and didn't know what the next week would hold. But it's a tremendous honor to see how SBA has touched my life so many places, Dr. Colvin, throughout life. And that's why my approach to this and my strategy is keeping it real, making it personal, and bringing it on a mayoral level. That's why we're doing these town halls. That's why I reached out to my good friend Chris Ray. You guys know Chris Ray from Spring Lake? Some of you guys may know Chris. Now, the Honorable President of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. I went to the Divine Nine. An agreement had never been done. I said, why aren't we working with the organizations that are so ingrained across this entire country, the 2.5 million members of the Divine Nine, and make them fully engaged as our partners for SBA and resources, and make that happen across the country. So my approach has been that. Make it personal, make it mayoral, and try to make a real impact in what we're trying to do across the East. And we'll be back. This won't be the first or last time you see us. We look forward a year from now to be singing your praises and singing your successes and what you've learned today.
Thank you. What do you think the most important issues facing small businesses in Fayetteville area? And I'm going to ask you, once Mayor Colvin finished, what do you see going across the southeast?
Well, one, we have a lot of opportunity here and a lot of people with the innovation and the ideas, and I think that there has been a challenge with turning those ideas into a realistic business. And so the whole thought process behind the hub was to centralize that process, to help people take an idea of innovation, to turn it into a plan, to get them connected to resources and to execute. And that's what entrepreneurs do. I think if we could have done it any better, I think we would have started that process earlier. I knew I came on in 2017 with a mission to expand and help that grow, but I don't think everything came to fruition immediately. But now we're starting to see the results of that. You know, we were recently named as one of the largest or the highest concentration of black-owned businesses in the United States, which is phenomenal. But now we need to get them connected to resources, not just African-American businesses, but women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and others. We need to create opportunity, and we have to be intentional on our spending. The City of Fayetteville is a $265 million corporation that buys things every day. The county is a $600 million corporation owned by the people that buys things every day. PwC is a $460 million corporation that buys things every day. And if we put our buying power and our knowledge and information to good work, we've got a lot of good people here with innovative ideas that can make it happen.
Well, Mayor, congratulations, first of all, for being the hub for black business and entrepreneurs. That's something that deserves a hand. It really is. It really is. And that's not something that happens by accident, as we know. I mean, there's all kind of unintentional and unrecognized barriers and challenges that are along that path, and we all know that. I get to see it. I'm in Jackson, Mississippi in a couple of weeks. You know, I'm in somewhere in the backwoods of Georgia or somewhere in in Kentucky, and we do disaster recovery and relief too. So I go to these communities. You can still see the rust marks from the last flood or the last damage of the hurricane. There are a lot of cities that have quick resiliency, but I have a real place in my heart for the rural communities that hopefully with the improvements in Starlink and all the other technologies that are out there, that we can get back to innovation, really get back in our rural communities across the entire country, which I want to see. But he's right. I mean, the real thing is it's great to have a passion. It's great to have an idea and a concept. But I think the key is we've got to break through these barriers. I think we get in a silo. Hey, I'm an entrepreneur. They talked about, the company I started. We failed at some too. We had some successes, but that was in an extra bedroom in Charlotte. That's where we started that company. And then look at what happened. We sold that, a successful exit in 2018. But you've got to understand, like I did, I walked in with an idea and my partners, an idea on a napkin, literally. And we walked into the SBTDC in North Carolina and said, help. You don't have to have an MBA. You don't have to have a business degree. You just got to have the willingness and the passion. And I don't care if you're my 16-year-old daughter or my 18-year-old daughter, or someone who is retired and age 60 or whatever and looking to say, what's my next chapter? You got to understand there are real people that want to help you. The SBDC, the SCORE chapters, retired and current executives that will literally break open their Rolodex for you. Understand that you have all these resources here, the Apex accelerators for folks who want to learn about government contracting. So what I'm seeing across the country is how to learn about, get access to capital. That is really key, and that's what we're here to talk about today, right? And how to start your journey and how to stick with it. And you took the first most valuable step because you are in this room. And that's the most important step you can ever make. Make yourself vulnerable. Your business partner might be sitting on the next row from you. That changes your entire life. Because guess what? That's how good things happen. Collision space, collaboration. And it doesn't matter whether it's local funds, Mayor, the state or federal. We're all here for you, and all of us know about each other. So let's find out about how your story is being written and how we can be an important chapter in your story.
So what I'm hearing you say, one of those takeaways is don't do this in silos. That there is a support system, and the Small Business Administration and the city as well is here to assist you to help you be successful, and that's with the Small Business Technology Development Center, the SCORE, the Women's Business Center, or the Veterans Business Outreach Center. These are resources that your taxpayer dollars have paid for to be able to provide you with these tools to be successful in small business. So I wanted to plug that in to let you know that there is a support system for you, and you do not have to do this alone. My next question to you, what are some resources or upcoming initiatives that are unique to your respective space for the City of Fayetteville as well as at the federal level?
Well, again, Derek talked about a couple of programs that we have, from grants to loans, about facade grants and gap finance. And, I'll give a personal testimony. At 26 years old, I had taken over a family business that was kind of going through some challenges. I had big ideas and no money, and I walked into several banks and made myself vulnerable to say, hey, I want to buy another business. And they were like, well, your business you guys are not doing too good. And, no money, no credit, really. And just stayed with it, stayed committed to it. At 26, the SBA guaranteed a loan for me at 80%. I had one bank. I had been denied probably 6 or 7 times or more. But one bank decided to do it with an SBA guarantee only, which only left them exposed for 20%. And I didn't need the gap financing. I was able to kind of figure that out. They used some of the equity in the existing business that I had with the purchase. But the gap financing is important. Many of you will walk into a bank and you just don't have $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 sitting around. So the city has the gap financing option. We are trying to look at retooling the facade grant match that, when a business owner makes improvements, we will match it up to $25,000. So $25,000 gets you $50,000 worth of improvements. The problem is that you may not have the capital to get reimbursed. And so we've got to loosen the regulations up to that and do that. And then we're looking at how it is that we petition. We're working with our economic development partner. We matched $2.5 million from the state. So there's a $5 million fund that we're trying to get on the street for businesses that exist that are looking to scale up and add 10 employees over the next 3 or 4 years. Up to $500,000 grants, and I think that money is not paid back if you can prove it, but we're trying to make sure that we get the terms because we had to retweak it with the whole changes in the state level. But we are trying to get money on the street, and we're trying to get education to the innovative entrepreneurs that are in our community.
And also, the programs like the mayor was mentioning that he took advantage of when he was 26. And hey, I've been there too. Like I said, we had 10 or 12 banks turn us down, for a project we did after the housing bubble, the housing crisis, in 2004, whatever that was. And it was an SBA loan that allowed us to something we knew would be a success, but no bank would listen to us. They're holding all these toxic assets and issues that they were dealing with. But y'all need to understand there are a number of vehicles at your disposal. And here's the great thing. You can stack it. You can stack federal help with local help. So understand you can create a portfolio of opportunity if you give the right people to work with you. So for example, SBA, if you need $500, we have community banking that can get you $500. Sometimes you don't need $10 million. You need what you need. And never overexpose yourself. And that's one of the things you'll learn from the business fundamentals. If you go to the women's business centers or the SBTDCs, talk to you about this in the SCORE chapters. So from 500 to 5 million, it depends on what you need. If you need money literally for cash flow for your business, or to buy a building, or to buy equipment, or to buy another business, as he was speaking, and now we've made where you can have partial purchase of a building, which is new with SBA or a business. So the 7A lending, the 504. Write these things down if you guys will, and go to SBA.gov. Let me say that again. You have the QR up here, but SBA.gov. Understand? Get that one and look for North Carolina. And but as I said, there's multiple vehicles here for lending. If you just need a small community bank lending, we can help you with that. Sometimes some of the largest business would amaze you that started simply with seed money of $2,000 or $3,000. Take what you need. Only take what you need, and then find good partnerships and grow. And also, we have phenomenal training programs. All of these entities we've mentioned, just amazing training programs. And I know we'll get into that when we have the roundtable. That's stuff that you could walk out of here and sign up with today, which would be phenomenal. But one is, if you already have an existing business that's been open for 2 years, whatever it is, there's the 8A program if you're a woman or a minority, and that gives you access to 9 years of potential sole source government contracting opportunities. Think about that for a minute. You heard the scale of number that was mentioned here. I always like to throw out the existing budget last year was like $638 billion or something like that, and 23% of that goes to small business, and we're the gatekeeper for a lot of that. But understand there's a lot of programs that we can get you into, And all these are taxpayer funded. You've already paid for it. Your hard work, you and your families. Take advantage of these programs. There are generational wealth, opportunities, and incredible partners that will lend you their expertise to get you in these spaces.
And I forgot to mention, too, that there's also some programs, and Derek will probably get a little bit deeper in depth about equipment financing. A lot of times you're in business, and you may have the jobs, but you don't have the equipment, and you have to rent it, or particularly in construction or building. You just don't have the tools you need to be successful to execute. And so we have an opportunity there to help with that.
Great. So I know we are sitting here in your role as government officials, but I would like for you to speak from a perspective of a business owner. I think it's very impressive that we have two individuals, Mayor Colvin, who have taken his family business, and for the past 30 years, the business has been in business for 47 years, and scaled that. So you have a business that has the sustainability of 47 years serving this community. And Mr. Allen have taken a healthcare management company and serving over 160 facilities over 36 states. That's very impressive. What advice that you would give an aspiring entrepreneur or a small business in this room that's trying to scale their business? What advice would you give them from a business owner's perspective?
Oh, you can lay this on me first. Okay. That's fine. Begin with the end in mind. You know what I mean by that? Go ahead and start doing the appropriate things on the front end. Because if you're running, I have some friends who have business on the side, right? And then when a tornado or disaster hits, guess what? They can't get help. Or when there's a contracting opportunity or another thing going on, they can't get credit for the fact that they've had a business in place for 10 years, but have not exactly been doing all the pieces that they should have done. So my advice to you is, I know it may hurt, but begin with the end in mind. Cut that picture out. Put it on your wall. Get that Post-it note. Where do you want to be in 3 years or 5 years? And understand, and there are free resources. These women, and the Women Business Centers is not just for women. Anybody can walk in. Same thing with the SBTDCs and others. Anybody can walk in. Start with the end in mind. Do the appropriate accounting. Get your business set up right. And then your journey is protected and you're covered. And that would be my first main thing, I think, in terms of advice, because that's what we did. And others that didn't have fallen along the wayside. But the fact that we did things appropriately, banks look at that, everyone looks at that correctly, and that will get you much further to remember the long game. That's what you're going to.
Yeah, and that's great advice. And, I'll piggyback on that a bit just to say, stay committed to it. The biggest thing is we've got the idea. A lot of times it's scary. You don't know what's on the other side. You don't jump into it with both feet in. You kind of, as he said, you hold half of your cards in this hand and half in that hand. But just remember, business is like a flower. I always tell people that the more you water it, and the more you nurture it, the more you feed it, the more it'll grow. The less you do those things, the more it won't. And that is a big thing with businesses to say, hey, I want to start a business, but I want to keep my job. And when do I know how to transition that over? Because I need the income, but I don't want, you've got to take the risk and stay committed to it. Whatever your pace is to get there, stay committed to getting there, because there will not be instant returns. There are days you want to walk away from it and say, why did I even do this? A whole lot of days, all right? And I don't care what level you are. You still have those thoughts, right? But you got to know that the same passion that made you start it is why you began it. And keep that in mind and remind yourself of that, even when you hit the turbulence. And then I'll say, too, don't be intimidated to take the government programs. That funeral home I talked about in Lumberton, I've got 3 locations now. The one that I was talking about at 26 years old, I had to go not only with SBA, I had to do something. There was a USDA opportunity because it was a small community of under 25,000. So pick your locations and don't be intimidated. The paperwork was intimidating to me that, hey, I'm not going to tell the government all my business, but whatever those challenges are, make yourself vulnerable, stick with the process, and stay committed.
Thank you. So as our last question, if you had one last thing you would like to share with the audience here, what would be that last advice, recommendation you would like to share with them?
Leave this meeting with something that you didn't have before we started and use it. along your path of commitment, along your path to success, wherever you envision your business going and whatever level it is, leave this meeting not just attending another meeting, because you have invested the greatest asset that anybody has today, and that's your time.
That's right.
And we can't get it back. I don't care how rich you are, how many resources you have. So use it to further your cause, and leave this today by making contact with the SBA, with the hub, with the city, or whatever it is that you think will be helpful in your journey.
Yeah, that's great. I had an older friend told me a long time ago, he said, son, you get in a hurry sometimes, right? We jump from idea to idea, and he said, you can either eat the seed or you can plant the seed. So which is part of your journey? Think about that for a minute, what that really means and how you multiply and create that opportunity, right? The thing that I want to mention to you, and we'll get into it, I'm sure, in the roundtable, is if you're not aware of this, and some folks, it blows me away that they aren't. You know that we've had the largest federal outlay of reinvestment in bridges, infrastructure, new technology across this entire country since FDR, since pre-World War II. In the past 3 years, the billions and billions of investment that have been pushed out to the states and then out to the cities and the counties and others, massive contracting opportunities. I think it's like 35 billion, even here in North Carolina, in private investment, 10 billion in public sector investment, to the DOT, to all these different agencies and entities. Understand there's never been a bigger and better time for small business. If you go to, I think it's SBA, y'all help me out, sba.gov/IIA hub. Please, y'all act like I'm saying that correct. Investing in America. And that's called Investing in America. So again, sba.gov/IIA hub, which is Investing in America. And go take a look at that. There's tremendous opportunities out here across the country that are in your community starting now in major investment that have subcontracting opportunities. Worst case scenario, you learn something and something for you and your tribe and your circle that you can get that information out. That's the thing I would like to leave with you, to understand there's never been a larger investment in this country since the 1930s than is out there right now. So get out there and get in front of it, because somebody will if you don't. So I'd love to have that right here in Eastern North Carolina, making some great things happen, and bragging about Mayor and bragging about what's happening here in Fayetteville. My wife is from Scotland County, right down the street. So nothing would make me happier than to see this region to multiply.
Well, we want to thank them again for their time. I do believe you're going to stay afterwards for the second session in regards to access to capital and understanding what it takes to receive the funds that you need to start and grow your business. I always tell people it takes money to make money. And in this session, they will also be along to answer questions for you as well. But we want to take their time to say thank you. Like Mayor Colvin says, time is a resource that we can't get back. And we are very appreciative for you coming in today to share with us the services that's available to this community at the city level as well as at the federal level. So again, we want to thank Mayor Colvin and Alan Thomas for their time today. So I hope you got something out of that today, right? Start with the end in mind. Don't eat the seed, plant the seed, right? Be committed. Don't do this in silos. You have a resource system. You have a support system here to help you. So do not feel like you're in this alone. I always say, I'm a mother, and it takes a village, right, to raise a child. And it's the same thing. It takes a village as well to be able to start and grow your small business. So again, we want to say thank you for coming. I want to introduce our next speaker, Ari Moore Dion. She is the Deputy District Director for the Small Business Administration. She has served in this role since September 2021, has been serving as the Deputy District Director with the Small Business Administration North Carolina District Office in Charlotte. In this capacity, Ari is a partner to the District Director and works for small businesses through expansions of the SBA programs and services. Prior to this role, she was Lead Business Opportunity Specialist with SBA, working to support a portfolio of AA certified firms in navigating the federal small business procurement procurement spaces. Before joining SBA, Ari worked with the United States Peace Corps in Ghana, East Africa, where she provided operational support to a local micro lender. She started her career in California, serving as a manager of volunteers for Los Angeles-based nonprofit, providing academically focused after-school programs. Ari holds a graduate and undergraduate degree from the California State University, Long Beach. Let's welcome Ari to the stage.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Colvin. Give a hand to Dr. Colvin, awesome moderator. And of course to Mayor Colvin, as well as Regional Administrator Alan Thomas. Thank you to you as well. We know your time is precious. We know your time is precious too. So thank you for being here. As Dr. Colvin stated, my name is Adignaz Meridian, or feel free to call me Ari. So again, so glad you could be here today. So I'm based out of the North Carolina District Office, so I'm part of the local field office along with Mike Ariola, Scott, Heather. We're part of the local SBA field office based in Charlotte, but we serve all of North Carolina. So of course you're all here today because you're either thinking of starting a business or you have a business here or near Fayetteville and you want to learn more from industry experts on the ecosystem that is here in Fayetteville and just outside as well. So we have a mix of lenders and city employees, experts, industry experts in their relevant fields that we're going to bring up to the panel today. So I'm going to be asking them some questions as the moderator, but think about some questions you may have for them as well, because in the last half of this, we're going to be taking questions from the audience, okay? So make sure that you think of any questions you may have for them. So let me go ahead and start introducing the panel. Come on up, panel. All right. Let's go ahead and start with you can go ahead and come on up and take a seat. Let's start with Ms. Jennifer Baptiste. She currently serves as the Development Ombudsman Special Projects Coordinator for the City of Fayetteville since May of 2024. Yes, you heard me right, May of 2024. She previously served as a senior planner and as planning manager for the city. She has over 20 years of experience working as a professional planner here in North Carolina and has experience with land development, land use, long-range planning, and historic planning. So for you folks with the brick and mortar businesses, she also deals with zoning. Derek, you may have met Derek MacArthur earlier. He's the City of Fayetteville's Economic Development Manager. While working in the city's Economic and Community Development Department, Derek has been responsible for a wide range of economic development programs and initiatives, including business retention, technical support, small business assistance and advancement, and commercial revitalization, among many others. Mr. Kevin Bunn, who is the Senior Vice President of First Bank, has managed the commercial and retail bank while also managing the bank's mortgage department. He's been very involved in helping structure large commercial loans and gaining consensus within the bank to move forward with client proposal and loan committee approvals. Next, we have Ms. Denise Langdon. Denise joined the Women's Business Center of SEED in February of 2022 as a director of the Women's Business Center program. She recently took advantage of an early retirement offer from BB&T and left banking after 17 years. So she's got a lot of banking experience as a local resource partner. She works with her clients and small business owners to help them achieve their financial goals and dreams. And last but not least, we have Ms. Magali Rivera, who is a Business Solutions Officer with Carolina Small Business Development Fund, CSBFD. where she supports small businesses with access to capital and business resources. Magali brings 25 plus years of in-depth expertise in strategic planning, business development, community initiatives, program concept development, and grant writing. So thank you to the panel for being here today. All right, let's get started. Oops, okay. So let's throw out a business question there, a good, simple business question. So Denise, when starting or expanding a business, what do you think is the biggest area that businesses should focus on to be successful?
Okay, that's a lot of question in there, but I think that once you determine what problem you're solving, because that's what all businesses do, right? They're solving a problem. So, you know, you've determined your market. What I think we find a lot is it's the finances. It's the financial piece of that, right? So I think that you really need to spend the time determining what are your startup costs going to be? What's your margin? What's your break-even point? Because that's going to help you determine what your profitability can be and how many units or services you must provide to make the amount of money that you want. So a lot of times what we find is when we get into the numbers, you find out that maybe you have to sell 1,000 widgets a week to make the money you're looking for. And you know you can't. So now we have to look at what is my margin, what is my selling price, how do I determine those things? And I think it was it Mayor Colvin that said the paperwork, right? Who wants to do that? And getting into the finances is a lot. But what I can tell you is that in this area, you have 6 partners that can help you with that. That's what we do every day, right? We help you with that. VBOC, SBTDC, the Hub, Fayetteville Tech Small Business Center. That's what we all do. And we're there to help you with that because we can't give you, if you come in 6 months later and say, I need more money, if you've not determined that part, then more money isn't going to help you. It's just going to kick the can down the road. So it's diving deep into break even and margins in the beginning and what are startup costs. I think you really need to look at.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Denise. So in that same thread, Kevin, can I ask you the same question? Would you like me to repeat it?
Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think I got it. Yeah, just to kind of piggyback on what you said was, you know, there are a lot of good ideas for what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, what your product or your service is, but think about, number one, is there a demand for what I want to do? Are people willing to pay for what I'm doing? Who else in the community or surrounding area does what I do? In other words, who is my competition? Why am I going to be better than my competition? So I think it's important to think, you've got a concept, but think about if it's something that whoever you're marketing to is willing to buy. And speaking of marketing is a huge piece of it too. Once you get to that point, how are you going to market your product? How are you going to position your product or your service?
Yeah, so, okay, thank you for that. Magali, working with a CDFI, a Certified Development, you can finish the rest. How would you answer that question? And tell us a little bit about what a CDFI is.
Thank you. So first and foremost, CDFI stands for Community Development Financial Institution. We're a financial institution. We're also a nonprofit organization. But the CDFI is a designation that came from the federal level. And so there were congressional people that fought to create this loan fund, which we administer. So that means that it was specific to what are underserved, underbanked, those that would not traditionally receive funding from banks. Now, we love our banks because in addition to the CDFI fund, we have other allocations. So think of those allocations as funds, additional money that we receive from different banks. And that allows us to have a portfolio of loans that are available to you. And I do echo what you have said with respect to financials, because in terms of requirements, one of the first things that you're going to need in order to qualify for a loan with CSBDF is going to be the business plan and the financials. And we do all kind of lending. We do startups. We do startups. We also do equipment. We do debt consolidation. We're obviously very grateful to the relationship that we have with SBA. I know you heard it mentioned before. And our relationship with SBA means that if you do not have collateral, then we're going to work with you to get an SBA loan. And then the other thing is SBA will guarantee up to 90%, so there is an expectation that you will bring 10% to the table. It is not from borrowed funds in that case. So those elements are important. My specific role when you come to us is basically to hold your hand throughout the entire loan process. So I am not gonna send you a loan application, because we do what is known as a pre-loan readiness process, where we work with you to ensure that you are ready for the loan before we submit the loan application. And in fact, we work with you beyond the loan process. We're vested in your success. We're vested in eradicating the statistics that say more than 50% of businesses fail after 3 years. We can't force you to continue the relationship with us, but we definitely know that if you do, you will be a success.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So what I'm hearing there's a lot of resources like VBOX, Veterans Business Outreach Centers, Women's Business Centers, Small Business and Technology Development Centers, and SCORES. And then also pay special attention to, make sure you're fleshing out your market analysis and the feasibility of your product or service before jumping in fully. And there's also a lot of different lending products out there that, people can take advantage of. Thank you. So let me switch over a little bit. I'm just going to kind of jump back and forth a little. Jennifer, as the Development Ombudsman Special Project Coordinator, what are some of the common zoning questions you hear from small businesses? So what type of information can you provide today to help small businesses get ahead of any potential zoning issues they may face?
Well, with zoning, one of the main things that everyone has to realize is that every parcel within the city of Fayetteville, and this is a caveat, this information that I'm about to give is only for parcels that's within the city limits of Fayetteville. Each municipality, such as Cumberland County or Spring Lake, they'll have their own process and information, so you would need to contact them for their rules and regulations. But within the city of Fayetteville, each parcel has a zoning district. Whether your use or your business is allowed in that zoning district depends on our charter permitted uses, which is located in our Unified Development Ordinance. So the main thing that we need to figure out is that you need to contact our department, let us know what you want to do and where you want to do it, so we can look it up and see if that zoning district allows the use that you want to do. Before you sign a lease, if you're leasing, make sure that you check to see if that is allowed. Because if it's not allowed, unfortunately, we would have to send code enforcement out and stop your business. So please make sure and contact our department to make sure that what you're doing is allowed in that zoning district. And another aspect of starting a small business in the city of Fayetteville is that we have two options to starting a business in Fayetteville. You can do it as a home occupation, in which Mr. Thomas touched upon that when he said they operated out of a room in the house. You can operate as a small business in your home until you're ready to move on to the next phase, which is the second option, which is a brick and mortar business. So there are various options that the city offers, but just contact our office and the city is here to help you. We are not trying to hurt anybody or stop you from realizing your dream, but we want to make sure that your dream starts off correctly before you get in too deep and then you can't get out of it. So please contact our office. I have some brochures with me. I left them on the resource table. Please take a brochure. I'll stay afterwards, and I have some phone numbers for our zoning administrators. They're here are in the office to help you get the information on your property, because not only do we look at the zoning, we look and see if you're going into a brick and mortar situation, do you have enough parking? We need to get you into a state to make sure that you are going to be a success at what you're doing.
So can you sort of remind again, at what point is the right point to engage your office?
Before you sign anything, engage us. As soon as you find a location, you could be driving down the street and see a for lease sign. Get the information, as much information about the property as you can. We can generally find it based on an address. So as long as you have the address for the site that you want to move into, we can look it up and look up the zoning district. And we'll let you know, just give us the information on what you want to do, as much information as you can. And we'll look it up and say, okay, you fall into this category, you're allowed in that zoning district, or no, it's not appropriately zoned for that.
Okay, thank you. Derek.
Working with the City of Fayetteville Economic Development Department, I know you were going into some of the capital access products on your previous slides. So in addition to that, can you tell us what types of sort of unique business resources or products are available in the City of Fayetteville?
Thank you. She talked about going from having a business in your home to expanding to brick and mortar. One of those things is we like to look at is when you're going from that, from your home where you owned it to a brick and mortar place where you want to take ownership. Sometimes you say, hey, I don't want to lease. I want to be able to take ownership, and we want to help you being an owner occupied to take ownership of that building. So we offer that gap financing. And that gap financing is, once again, filling in that gap. So we'll take what's missing that the bank doesn't provide and that you don't have so that you can take ownership of that building. I'll use a new business that we just provided with that we helped them 1 year ago to purchase the building, and they needed a lot of facade improvements. And what we did was that whole entire area needed some improvement, not just that one building. And we were able to do an exterior grant with that same business owner 1 year later and provide them with a $25,000 grant that was not paid back as long as they secured jobs that was low to moderate income for 1 year. Now, that doesn't mean you keep that person employed for 1 year. That means you keep that job open for 1 year. And what it did was it took where they had 3 employees, they've already up to 8. So that's why that funding is available. That's why we do those type of things. And of course, it increases the tax base. So those are just some of the programs that we offer. Now, economic community development, we've started where we have focused on workforce development programs. We've got programs up in the city that we not only started and helped, where the My Future So Bright program right now, you've probably seen that in the paper that's recent, where we're helping youth from the ages 14 to 24 get employed for the summer. That not only helps our economy, it keeps those young people out of trouble. It's a youth diversion at the same time. We're getting them employed, teaching them a valuable skill. Now, I'll tell everybody, there's nothing wrong with working fast food, nothing at all. But we wanted to let them choose their career, and they're working in those careers, whether that's from IT, working in an attorney's office, working in the doctor's office. I see somebody up to the side over there. And so all of those are valuable skills that that go back into our local community that's taught by the youth. We do everything in our department from workforce development. Right now, we've got a cycle, we're teaching general contracting class. So you can become a general contractor so that you can compete for those contracts that SBA just talked about, those millions of dollars that's available. Those are a few of the programs that's available. I can sit there all day and talk about those programs.
I mean, the workforce development one sounds really interesting.
It definitely is. So we always talk about, putting that money back in. So the training that we provide, we sponsor job skill training here at FTCC that's local, where we're teaching those basic electrical classes. We've actually just now going to change those that's going through massage. When they finish out, and long as they're low to moderate income people that's getting those classes, when they come out, they need to buy a table to start their business. If they can volunteer 5 hours, we can pay up to $500 for that table for them to start. Those are just a part of the few programs that's out there that we have available in the Fayetteville community that the mayor and the city council gave us an initiative to give back to this community.
Thank you, Derek. So what's the best way for the audience and the public to learn about these different programs?
So a lot of those programs you're going to find at the nonprofits that we help sponsor, FTCC, Service Source. You're going to find Mid-Carolina. I'm trying to think of all of them right now. Service Source, Miller's Crew, Crest. Those are quite a few. And you can also always go to the city's website, FayetteVilleNC.gov/ECD, and look at our business resource partners.
Okay, so a lot of them are listed.
They're all listed online.
So that's more of a kind of a consolidated place they can go. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so back to a little bit of the lending side as well. Kevin, in your experience, what common challenges do businesses face in engaging banks? So what are the challenges when they try to engage a bank that you find from your perspective as a banker?
Yeah, and we've talked about it a lot here already. The ability to access the capital. I'm a commercial lender, and typically I'm dealing with companies that are established, have been in business, have a track record, have a history. But for a startup, it's difficult for a bank a commercial bank to work with a startup, because we're looking at, when we're lending money, we're looking at primary source of repayment. First of all, how do we get paid? Second of all, what's the secondary source of repayment? And if you're a startup business, you really don't have that track record, so it's hard for a commercial bank to make a startup loan. And we've heard that today. But what I've been so glad to hear, and I didn't realize it, is all the options that are out there for through the Women's Business Center, through the SBTDC. In fact, we work, for startup businesses, we'll refer them to the SBTDC or to Women's Business Center, because as we talked about, having a business plan, knowing what it is you want to do, is really key for a bank. We have an SBA division within the bank, so we make SBA loans. We just don't make them on the commercial side, we make them in our SBA group. But so we do make those loans, and we allow small businesses to get started with the whole idea that you sort of graduate to the commercial bank when you have that history 2 or 3 years, and you're profitable and you're reaching your goals and that sort of thing. You can graduate that's probably not a great term or whatever, but you can qualify for a commercial loan because you have that history. But I would say too that it's really important to have a relationship with your banker. Get to know your banker, spend some time with your banker, tell them the good, the bad, and the ugly, because the more we know as a bank or know as a banker kind of where you're headed, what your challenges are, I think the better that we can help you. So I know maybe that can be intimidating for a startup company or whatever, but like I say, get to know your banker. Your banker can give you a lot of good advice. Our bank takes the consultative approach. We try to provide some guidance, just like these other organizations we talked about today do. But yeah, so I think, the access to capital is a huge challenge, obviously, as we talked about today, but also feel comfortable developing that relationship with your banker.
Okay, thank you. Magali, can you talk from your perspective a little bit about the same thing, the common challenges when a borrower approaches you?
Absolutely. It continues to be over and over again financials. We, similar to a bank, want to be able to look at your forecast over a 3-year period. Working with the SBDTs, the VOC, the Women's Business Center is a critical piece for you, right? We're all part of the business ecosystem working towards your success. So when you come to me and you have a business plan is giving us everything related to what you want to achieve or how you want to achieve it. But you want a realistic, and it is a tool for you, the financials, right? It's going to show you from a revenue perspective how you're going to ramp up your business from month to month. If you submit financials to us that say from month 1 through month 12 you're making $50,000, you need to ask yourself, is that realistic and practical? And that's why we highly recommend that you work with our SBTDCs, work with the Women's Business Center, work with these free resources to be able to get yourself equipped. We find that businesses come to us passionate, knowledgeable about your business, your product, your services, and some businesses just shy away from the financial piece. Don't do that to yourself. Dig deep, ask questions, connect with every single one here, and become knowledgeable on all facets of your business. And I'm here as a business solutions officer. When you come to us for a loan, I'm going to evaluate it, and I'm going to promise you that by the time you receive the loan, you're going to be so much more educated on how to operate and grow your business. But beginning, middle, and end, don't even write, I know you may not agree with me here, but do not write the business plan if you haven't done the financials.
No, I actually agree wholeheartedly.
Okay, thank you. Because I have so many people that come to me with beautiful business plans, beautiful concepts, beautiful products, great experience, great knowledge. You need your financials. So if there's anything you leave out of here today is to call any one of us and say, how do I do my 3-year financials?
Actually, if I get a business plan, I don't read anything. I go straight to the financials, and if they're wrong,
all
I don't
do.
even read it. I just give it back and give advice on how to fix the financials. I don't even do any of the reading until I review financials, because until that's right, none of the rest of it matters.
exactly
No, I
correct.
actually don't.
So do you recommend small businesses go, how do they mitigate that? Do they go to a CPA? What is it that will help them fix their financials? Denise. Or
Everybody that's in the room, you know who you go to? All your resource partners is in the back of here.
Taxpayer funded, we're all
Yes.
paying for these resource partners here,
So
so they
Go
can
to-
help with
Right, we
that.
can help with all of that. Really, you fix the financials by understanding them, right? It's understanding what is my cost, what are my startup costs, what are my monthly expenses, and actually getting into the weeds about what that is. Once you get all that, we can help you spread that out, and we do. And we have sheets we've actually shared. I think it's Rudy has a sheet for startup cost and the 12-month spread. We actually use it at the Women's Business Center. So again, the free resources, we all work together on things. And so, if people have financial questions, we have Stuart in our office. That's like the financial guru. We let Stuart, he'll go through them. But you fix them by getting into the weeds, by being honest, and by assessing it, and then by working with those experts that are no cost to you. And we'll sit down and continue to have meeting after meeting until we get it right with you.
Okay, thank you. So how many businesses in here are like 0 to 1 year old? 1 to 4 years old? More than 4 years? Okay, wow, there's a lot of you in here that are more than 4. Okay, awesome. So so some of the older businesses may have experienced this before. So what about regarding access to capital? I hear this all the time. So I'm not a lender, I'm not a financial person, but working with small businesses, I hear this, oh, I couldn't get a loan, I went, I couldn't get a loan. I went to the lender, and the lender said, no, why? Well, because on my financials, it says that I bring in this much, but really my CPA advised me to go low so that I can reduce my tax burden, but now I want a loan and now I can't support the loan. So can you talk a little bit about that, Denise, please?
Well, I think it's about, and I understand that. So I do think that in my period of banking, and even now as I see it, I used to tell people, if you're in a lending cycle, you're going to have to give Uncle Sam what Uncle Sam is due. And while we don't like that, that's what you have to do. You've got to show the income. And it's just, it's the double-edged sword, right? But I also think that's about having conversations with your CPA also, so they understand, hey, I'm going to want to grow. I want to expand this business. I'm going to need to borrow money. And so they don't write off everything that they can, or you can do that, but again, then you don't have the money left for repayment. So I think there's a fine line between balancing what Uncle Sam is due and then what you want to do to grow. Magali or Kevin, I mean, that was from my banking. You got?
Yeah, I would just say that when we look at a loan request, what we base our loan decision on, the cash flow, and the ability to repay, is that tax return. That is what we go on, and if you're managing that bottom line, you can manage it to the point where you may not have the cash flow coverage to be able to borrow. So, as somebody said, I would encourage you to connect with a local CPA. The CPA ought to be a part of your team, just like an attorney ought to be a part of your team as well. So, but yeah, so what you provide us in the financials is what we're going to use to determine your ability to repay. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I look at it and I say, for you, look at your 3-year tax returns if you've been around for 3 years, and say to yourself, would someone want to provide lending to me if my tax returns show a loss for 3 years in a row? And so it's really, to echo Denise's point, Denise, sorry. What are you telling your bookkeeper? What are you telling your CPA? What are you telling the consultant that is helping you when it comes time to do your tax returns? That is really what is going to make a difference. And then for startups, you should be aware that we're going to look at your personal tax returns. And so those personal tax returns, we're looking for outside income. We're looking to see how a startup, the owner, is going to run their household while they ramp up the business. So sometimes you may want to consider that as an owner, you keep a job, you consult, you work part-time, because we're going to look at the whole financial holistic picture. The owner is the business. The business's ability to grow is dependent on the owner. The owner has a household. If the owner can't cover their household expenses, then how are they going to cover a business loan? So think of it in those terms, and that'll be a really good guide. And then, of course, call me, and I'll provide insight to you.
I'll say from banking, if it ain't on paper, it didn't happen. That's the easiest way I say it. If it's not on the paper, it did not happen. I'll use during COVID-19, we saw a lot of people getting PPP loans and different things like that. The city offered a grant where they helped a lot of those barbers, beauty salons, those small 10-employee businesses get funding. If you didn't show that you had a loss, we couldn't help you. So that means also you had to show that you had a profit before COVID happened. So if you never showed that you was making a profit, COVID didn't affect you. That's just one example of many people was coming, when I was in banking then, and they were coming to the bank to say, hey, I was really making money. Once again, if it ain't on the paper, it didn't happen. And you cannot come to get any of our loans or grant programs without paying your taxes. We're going to check. So you don't qualify if you're not paying any taxes also, because we're using local and federal tax dollars to help fund these loans and grants in my department.
Okay, and I'm gonna get to the grants in just a second here, because that's a great topic. But let me ask Jennifer, so city, are there any fees for services from your department? Does your department charge any fees to the public?
It depends on the scope. For a home occupation application, I believe is a nominal fee, I think it's like $25. But if you're going into a brick and mortar situation, then you have to get certain building inspections done. If there are upgrades needed to the building, it just depends, and you're the owner of the building, then you'll have electrical, plumbing, you might have mechanical upgrades that you need to do. All of those trades, there's a permit form and there will be a fee. But in turn, it just would all depend on the scope of the work, how much those fees would cost for building inspection. One other thing that if you go into a brick and mortar situation that you need to be aware of is just because it was a business before, don't assume that your business is allowed in that site. That's another reason why you really need to check with our department to make sure that what you're doing is allowed at that location. Because if there's a significant change, then you're gonna incur also a fire inspection, which is handled by city fire department. So there's a couple of moving parts behind starting a business in a brick and mortar situation. But again, the city is here to help. It sounds intimidating, and I'm not trying to make it seem that way, but I'm trying to get as much information to you guys as possible. But with a change of use from the fire department, that's an additional fee. And it is based on their fee schedule.
Okay, and I had asked Derek this question, what's the best way to kind of contact your department? Is it online, on the website?
Yes, we have a website. If you go to city services, it's development services, and that'll show, because development services is comprised of inspections, permitting, planning and zoning, and code enforcement. The two departments or two sections in the department that you guys are really be looking at will be building inspection and permitting. So they'll be the ones to help you out with figuring out what you need to do in terms of your building. When you need to figure out if that location is appropriate, contact our zoning technicians. Their information is available on the website. I also have their names and numbers. I didn't bring enough cards for everyone, but I can give out their names and numbers for anybody that need it, so that y'all can contact them directly.
Okay, thank you. All right, one more question before we shift over to the audience, so get your questions ready. Grants. So we get a lot of questions from small businesses or aspiring small businesses or those small businesses that are already established about grants for small businesses. Denise, can you tell me a little bit about what kind of grants are there? Are there many grants out there?
So, I mean, I think we've shifted from COVID, right? COVID started a whole different mindset to businesses about grants available, and there was money. The government put out funding to help businesses, but we've shifted from that. And so those grant funds just are not available anymore. Now, I'm not telling you there's not grants. You can go to grants.gov and look up, all the grants that are out there. But you're competing nationally. You're competing against many different things. So from our perspective at this point, I really would almost say no. There really is. If you're depending on grants, then that's not a good way to look at funding to get started. It's probably just not going to happen like that. I'm not saying they're not there, but it's a national competitive thing. We had a partnership with Verizon that if you took some of their courses online, you signed up through our special link, they had a $10,000 grant available. But that, again, was competing nationally for that. It was out there. There are opportunities, but they're not just readily available like we had during the period of COVID and right after COVID. Now, having said that, though, I also know the city has different types of grants for different things, maybe the exterior grant, right? So that's available if you have the business, you want to do some facade work, and Derek better can talk about those things. So sometimes there will be local community things that are happening, and what the city of Fayetteville has, Spring Lake may not have, or Rayford may not have, or Sanford doesn't have, right? That's that local government coming in and having some different programs that they may be offering. And so with that, I can defer over now. I'll transfer it to Derek and let him help with that part of it.
And I have that conversation all day long.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think. Hello?
Uh-oh. Oh.
I have that conversation all day long. Grants are very, very competitive. You're on a national level. You're doing it from a foundation. You're not using taxpayer dollars for your grants. That was during a disaster time, during COVID. The city has an initiative where they have started and done something to help with blighted areas and make sure that those buildings are conforming to the city standards to help and aid you. But you have to have some type of investment in that. There are grants that, like she said, you can go to grant.gov, and a lot of those for certain industries. They're going to get you for that certain industry. If you're in a rural area, maybe you're in technology or a field they want you to invest in. If you're trying to start a restaurant, how many people is doing the same thing? I tell people if that grant was available, everybody would get it. But going back to working with our small business resource partners and doing your financials and talking about how you can start investing, how you can raise the capital yourself. If you don't want to take the investment in you, why does somebody else want to put the investment in you? That is major. I see that all the time. I don't want to use my money. To start your business, as a former banker, get comfortable having debt. As a business owner, get comfortable having debt.
Okay.
Magali, did you want to comment on that?
I mean, the most that I can say is, you know, in terms of innovation technology, there's the SBIR, also echoing very competitive. And then the second thing I would say is if you get a grant, that can be part of your 10% equity that is required because it's not being paid back. Remember that when you go for a loan, 90% of the loan is covered, you're expected to bring 10%. So if you happen to get a grant, you may want to consider the growth of your business over a 3-year period and take that opportunity because you're bringing 10% to the table so that if you get 25,000, you could apply for a loan that's 250. So you're looking at it over a stretch of time. And this is where, you know, someone like the gap funding that Derek mentioned is also an opportunity because you're bringing equity to the table, and that the different funding that is provided that doesn't have to be paid back. If it has to be paid back, then it's considered borrowed funds.
Okay, thank you. So we will, I'm going to shift over to the audience. If you do have questions, we'll take questions. We've got some microphones here on either side of the room. Please feel free to walk up to the microphone and ask any questions you may have. We've got a taker. Please state your name and your question, ma'am.
My name is Nadia. I own Gusto Napoletano. It's a restaurant on River Road. I don't need money. I need employees.
Oh.
How can I grow without employees?
So,
Do you want my tax money? Send me people.
no, you're fine. And I do apologize, they're not here today. One of the first places I tell everybody to start with is NC Works.
There, no help.
Okay, so I need to get your information. So, one thing,
Uh-oh.
another event that's coming up, I will tell you, I collaborate a lot. And I use, the chamber is gonna have a huge job fair. I don't have the dates. I was just in a meeting where they were talking about that, and that's gonna be a great opportunity.
July 19th. Say that again?
It's July 19th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Crown Complex out Gillespie.
July 19th.
Guess what? I'll be back home in Italy then.
Oh. Well, and another place, and I'm gonna tell you another place I want you to, is Rico still in the building? And I think he just stepped out.
Okay.
Have conversations with FTCC in the coordinator department. That is a great place to help them skill up.
Thank you, Derek. Did anybody else want to comment on like creative ways to find employees? Okay. All right. Next, ma'am.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Dr. Carmelita Bigelow. I am an owner of Behavioral Health and Clinic. Our problem is actually growing too fast and not have enough capital. We are very fortunate that we have the support of individuals that saw the vision and continue to support us pro bono at this point. But I really need help when it comes to capital because we are based on reimbursement, insurance reimbursement, and we're playing catch up as we are growing so fast and I can't breathe. I'm actually working more where I wasn't in the beginning. Now I'm taking patients because we are growing so fast. So who can I today sit down with and say, hey, I want to show you my financials and please help me?
So Kevin,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen this before.
Yeah, that is a classic example right there of growing too fast, and you're burning through cash, and so again, that's a classic example. But there are things you may want to consider, like for working capital needs, short You've got short-term working capital needs, and then you have long-term working capital needs. Look at that from a long-term perspective on what your long-term working capital needs, so you can finance working capital over a period of time, not necessarily over the shorter period of time. So you may be able to repay that depending on what your working capital needs are. Now, if it's sizable enough, there may be, we may need to look at, okay, how do we collateralize that? It could be done on an unsecured basis depending on your financial condition, but it sounds like you need some permanent working capital in the company.
Yes, and I actually put a lot of my own personal capital, moving thousands of dollars in from the beginning.
Right.
But like I said, reimbursement for us, insurance reimbursement takes at least 45 days. And considering the credentialing, the paneling, and all of that stuff, we're in cash burn. And we started in July of last year. We have our patient load we actually would like to hire, but again, not having the capital to actually hire those clinicians that we need.
Right, right.
I would say that it becomes critical for you to forecast now so that you can come to us, so that I can work with you directly on that. You want to be able to know what are your cash flow needs over the next 3 years. And that will determine personnel, that will determine operations, what are the exact components, because to his point, it's a cash flow issue. And so once we finish here, I'll give you my card, and it could be either or, right? I would say meet with Kevin, meet with me, take the opportunity, evaluate both, and make decisions, because you want to make sure that you now set the foundation for growth in a way that won't put you in the precarious position that you're in now.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Come on up to the mic.
Hello, my name is Mike Whiting, and I'm enjoying the time here. I have a question in regards to my business. My business is a personal business. I'm a real estate investor, and I purchase properties on my own and doing very well, commercial properties and things of that nature. What I want to do now is to scale it up. I'm using all my funds and those credit lines that I have from different houses, but I want to get to the level where it's a true business versus just doing it personal. So what can you say to give me some insight in that?
Yeah. What you do is it can be, capital intensive in terms of what you've got to put into when you make a purchase of a piece of income producing property. Rule of thumb, 20%, but these days with what interest rates have done and how much those cash flows, how much of a loan those cash flows may support today, at those rates would mean you put more equity probably in a real estate project today. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing, 35% equity just because we're underwriting those cash flows, the properties you're looking to buy, and how much of a loan it would support. So it takes the capital to be able to do that, especially in the business you're talking about.
Yeah, like I said, most of the properties, I'm blessed to have most of the properties I purchased cash.
Okay.
But I just want to, I don't want to continue to get credit lines. I just want to convert the whole business into a LLC versus just having it personal. It's on my personal taxes, so I wanted to make it an official business where I can grow and do other things.
Right. Well, if you've got equity or unencumbered real estate, that gives you a lot of flexibility to be able to do that. Banks can use that. I know you mentioned you didn't want credit lines, but those unencumbered pieces of real estate that you've got could help springboard you to buying additional real estate.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Denise, did you have any comments on that? Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you for your questions, sir. Please.
I probably will have to talk to that gentleman there that just spoke, because it was very similar to what I was getting ready to say. But for me, I have a small construction company, and so I focus more on green building. So I know what's everything going on with affordable housing, and there's a big need for that. So I wanted to see and find out what the direction that y'all see so far with Cumberland County when it comes to that, because I do want to grow my construction business. And at the same time, I have personal property. Like I said, I was listening to him. I have personal property that I would like to develop. And again, focus on affordable housing, but in a green way. And I wanted to look at different type of grants or different funding that would appropriate for something like that. So it's kind of a twofold. It's business, but also personal to open up my real estate portfolio.
So the city is very aggressive on affordable housing. We have our housing manager in the building. That is going to be your point of contact. Okay. He is, Jeff Moran will answer all your questions. He's going to walk you through the steps, get your performer, make sure it's feasible, and get you scaled up. We aid in that process. We don't do the process for you. What we do is, once again, everything we do in economic community development is we fill the gap. So you've also got to have that conversation with the bank. And so, once again, they may do 70, 80%, we may do 10% to help fill that gap. And depending on what you do, how many units you provide for affordable housing, we could do some of it as a grant and some of it as a loan. It depends on what you're offering. And as far as the construction, you're doing construction?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Our purchasing department is sitting right over there. We spend millions of dollars that we would love to spend in our local community. We talked earlier about me doing that general contracting class. We're doing that so we can keep the dollars locally. You know, we started that class because I got tired of us getting lunch money. And what I mean by that is we'll put out a bid to do some work. They'll win the bid in Raleigh. They'll come down. They'll buy lunch here, and they'll take their dollars back to their home. So we want those dollars to stay local. If you got a contractor, please make sure that you go to the tables and take advantage of those resources and make these connections.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, hello. So I have a question about agribusiness. I've used to work in these capacities before by providing resources for farmers, and now I'm in the position where we're in the process of starting our agribusiness with like a ranch or a farm. And I just want to know, are there any new resources now that are available within the county and also in the city for those type of funding?
It is. It depends on what you have and where you have it at, and we look at what kind of impact it's going to be. The key is going to be everything I do is in the city limits. Mm-hmm. That is key. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure
that's
if you're
in the county also. That's what I was mentioning the county as
that's
well.
Fine.
Yeah.
But everything we do is in the city limits. And the biggest thing is I'm going to say is collaboration. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you why I talk about collaboration once the next person answers their question. Because you're talking about being in that green space and having those, what you're growing, and the person behind you is starting the same thing.
Okay.
And we connected him the last time he asked a question at one of my events to somebody else that's doing the same thing. And working together and seeing a collaboration as a team can help say, let's do those things. Let's look at how it's going to impact the local community and who is going to impact. Is it going to be in what we call as a low to moderate income place, which is set up by HUD or qualified census tract to help those. That's how those opportunities will be there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Derek. Yes, sir.
Hey, my name is Warreese. I have a question about the financial part of the business. You all mentioned about ramping up the business, and what are y'all looking for besides just stay on the business plan that I'm increasing 1%, 2%, 10%? Is there anything else you're looking for in the business plan to actually give a realistic view that I'm ramping up the business instead of just putting numbers down?
Industry trends, so that you can benchmark when you're going for a loan. The underwriters are looking at industry trends. So we have some of those reports that I can share with you. That piece is going to be very significant because it's going to be looking at revenue to expenses, revenue to COGS, cost of goods sold. And if, you're saying your costs are 5% and industry trends and benchmarks are saying 25%, that doesn't mean that it's not realistic, but it does mean that you need to explain why you're sitting outside of industry trends.
Yeah, I was going to say, if that's what you're going to do, what are you doing to make that happen? And we just, as a bank, we would just need to understand. And as she said, does that fall in line with other companies that are in your industry? So it's just a matter of understanding what you're doing, and does that make sense?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Jaquan Fulmore. I just have a question in regards to obtaining resources and funding for things on the nonprofit side versus the for-profit side, especially in regards to, I know you said that obtaining grants now versus the COVID era is very different. My nonprofit wasn't even around during the COVID era, but I can definitely tell that the resources and grants that would have been available to an organization like mine were there, but they're just not anymore. And especially, doing work within the city limits within Fayetteville as a nonprofit owner or one of the nonprofit owners in the city, are the resources or organizations or networks that we can go to as well to receive funding as if we were a business.
What I can say is, as a nonprofit, sometimes what you may be able to do is connect with larger organizations that are trying to reach that market, right? So as an example, the Arts Council does grants every year, right, for the art industry to bring things into that space. So if you're in an area where there's large organizations that are trying to do that, they've received a large grant, and now to fulfill their grant, they then find smaller organizations and provide grants for you to provide the service, so they're able to hit the outcomes that they had put down to receive their larger grant. So depending on what area you're in, it may be to find larger organizations that are actually trying to reach that market too.
For sure.
That may be one option.
Absolutely.
The other thing is, in November, we'll put out what we call as a notice of funds. And that lets everybody know what we're going to do with our funds the upcoming year. And so once that comes out, nonprofits can realistically compete to show how the impact they're going to have on our local community and how we can aid them. Once again, everything we do is an aid. We have to fill in the gap. And so that's an opportunity that, like I said, once again, it comes out in November. And now in July, we're just now giving them the funds from the decisions that we made in January from what we put out in November.
Gotcha, appreciate it.
Okay.
I do have a commentary that sits outside the scope of CSBDF because we do not do nonprofits, but my background as a professional, I've raised over 50 million in grants. And so what I can say, which he already pinpointed, is make sure that you look at impact investing. The large nationals, the Dell foundations, all of these large foundations have switched their focus to what is impact investing. And so a small nonprofit like yours can get large grants if you're looking at it from a perspective of impact investing. And I would visit some of the foundations that provide that funding, because what you want is you want to be able to align to their objectives. You don't want to change the mission and the scope, but you do want to find those foundations that are in alignment with what your mission is, because you're going to be able to look at the next 3 years of what they want to achieve. Foundations that give money want to showcase themselves and how what they did impacted a community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We've got time for a few more questions, so we'll go with you, sir, and then you, ma'am, and then you. Oh, I'm sorry, you.
So, first off, I want to say thank you to Garrett, because all the grants and the loan situation I got it. So a building at 438 Robeson Street, I cut the grass there 30 years ago. I lived around the corner. I used to always drive by, like, I'm gonna buy that building. Well, between Mitch and telling us about some programs, Lumbee Bank, we were able to buy the building. The city cut the gap in reference to the down payment, because you definitely need that 20%. So I own 438 Robeson Street because of this program. So anybody out here that's saying like, it worked. You know, you can check Cumberland County tax records. It works. You know, I'm paying the taxes on there now. So what I wanted to ask is this. So because of the programs we've done really well, I didn't lose any employees during COVID, any of my full-times, because we transitioned from printing T-shirts to masks, and it did really well. So now we have cash flow. I got my 3 years tax returns. We're balanced. You know, it's not booming, it's not slow. You know, I don't take any suicide jobs, and I don't do any of that crazy contracting stuff to where you got to wait 90 to 120 days to get your money because it destroys your cash flow. With that being said, what resources would you have for forecasting? And I ask that because the well changed. There used to be, the river changed in reference to COVID. You know, I print family reunions, military runs, all of that, all of the things that COVID shut down. So they're barely opening back up now. So as we go into moving forward, we don't have a money problem or a cash flow problem. We're okay. But with your experience, what avenues or resources could we use in reference to forecasting now?
Denise, yes.
So tell me, when you say for forecasting, what specifically are we trying to forecast?
Pre-COVID, I could tell you what February 15th, when taxes hit to Thanksgiving, in February I was going to be about 30,000. March, April, and May, about 40 to 60,000 per month. I knew where it was. Now it's a roll of the dice. We are aggressive with advertising, and I'm very aggressive. I'm in like 5 to 10,000 a month in advertising with Facebook, and then customer retention strategies and things of that nature. But it's really aggressive, but I can't plan like I used to.
And I think, honestly, that's actually a trend that everyone is seeing. I don't think we've got a balanced consistency that everybody can base on. Prior to COVID, you're right, if I made this much in March, I knew that even for us, you know, usually July is our slowest month, and last year we planned out, and it was booming. Like, none of our trends are even the same as they had been historically for the 25 years we've been there, right? Like, our trends are off. And so I think it's just slowly learning what is going to be a new trend. One of the things I recommend to people, and I don't think it's utilized enough, is the library. The library has industry trends, company trends. They can pull data and information that's out there that people don't even know are there. If you go in and talk to the librarian and tell her, you know, what you're looking for, industries, just different data, they have different databases that I think can help maybe do some of the change of forecasting for you. I was amazed at the library. I was like, you can do what? They have what? So, I mean, it's a ton of data axles in there. You can go in by, you know, and tell them I want pet owners that have this many kids that go to the movies, and it will pull up literally that information. So I think to look at that, but to your point, I think that it's just going to take some time for the rebalance. I really do. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a set thing for that right now. And Derek, I think you've got.
Mine is a little bit different. I'm not going to talk about the forecasting, and I just want to make sure I address just not for you, but for everybody in the room. The city is also working on other innovative programs. We're working on right now. You talked about contracting that 90 days. We're working on something now that if you get a contract where we have a loan program, where if you get a contract with the city, the county, the state, or federal government, that we will let you we will take and give you the loan. Not when you're running once you get awarded the contract, we can give you the funding to operate the contract. What we're going to do is you have to create jobs. That is coming. We are working with the attorneys now. It is in the works. And you take that and you take that same thing and then you go to the banks and get lending so that you can have that 90 day to get those contracts. Now, I'm totally against somebody taking all contracts, But if you partner with, I think it'd be a great thing. Okay?
Thank you so much. So we've got 2 minutes left, but I know you two have been patiently waiting, so I want to get through your questions, but we've got like 2 minutes. Want to respect everybody's time. Yes, ma'am.
I'll just skip straight to it. I'm interested in kind of, linking with someone in the workforce development program. I'm not sure the terminology for it. In our industry, our entry-level jobs are geared to more like those with high school diplomas and whatnot. What we're finding is a lot of young people don't know about the industry at all, but when they apply for us, we get applicants all the time. They also haven't been fully trained. So we want to be able to link with like workforce development or other local resources to identify a training opportunity for them to get certified, but also to be able to create more jobs. We are always hiring in our field.
So let's get together after this, and we'll make some connections so that I can get you with FTCC.
Okay.
They have some wonderful programs here that I think that we can help you with.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And last question.
Mr. MacArthur said something earlier that piqued my interest. I was just wondering, are the services and lending opportunities, do they extend outside of Fayetteville jurisdiction, such as Rayford? We have a transportation company, a startup company, and we plan on contracting with Fayetteville and providing transportation in Fayetteville, but I was wondering if the services and the funding was available for me since I live in Rayford.
Once we get that program, if you get the contract with Fayetteville and you can employ people out of Fayetteville, we're willing to work with you. So we're very flexible, and what we do is the key is creating those jobs. I gave you the short answer because we have minutes.
Thank you. I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope you've all really enjoyed the time you've spent today, learned some things, got to interact with some industry leaders and some leadership in our communities as well. So thank you so much again. Thank you to the panelists. Give them a hand, please. Thank you to all of you. And also, thank you so much to FDCC for hosting us here today. We couldn't have done this without your participation. So there are some resource panels here, resource tables here around the room. So please feel free to interact with the resource tables as well as with the panelists. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Mitch, Colvin, Mayor of the great city of Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I'm thrilled to have Regional Administrator Alan Thomas here, former mayor. Came in today, provided some great information about resources offered through the Small Business Administration so we can help entrepreneurs in our community be better businesses and to scale it up and hire more people. Director, thank you.
Mayor, I want to thank you so much for having me here today. And teamwork makes the dream work, as they say, right? And nothing's better than that is providing access to capital and training and just having people believe in your dream. And it's great to have a great mayor like Mayor Colvin here in Fayetteville. And what we're doing with SBA, training, resources, and all those access to contracting opportunities. So it's great today to have a full room of people from Fayetteville and across the community to learn about these resources, Mayor. It's a real honor to be here. I look forward to great things in the community.
Well, we appreciate you. It was very well attended, a lot of interest in it. A great event is still going on as we talk about doing business with the city of Fayetteville in our local community. We want to make sure that business owners have a fair opportunity, connected with resources provided by the Small Business Administration, and to be very successful is our goal. But thank you so much again, and your firepower, bringing so many people out.
Hey, we bring them all, and you can go to sba.gov/North Carolina or just sba.gov, and anything we can do to help you in person, you let us know. And so many great resources here in Fayetteville as well.
Well, thank you. FayettevilleNC.gov. Go to Community Development, 910-433-1590, and make sure that you get connected.